Buffone. A certain magic will always linger with the very name. It speaks of courage and fervor in the world's most brutal game. 55, worn by Doug Buffone, a Chicago Bear through and through. He demanded excellence of himself and anyone wearing navy blue.
You tell me what's going on. This is moronic. We're going to get our whipped all the way down the line. I want somebody to get kicked in the and get out there and play. You're getting paid to play this game. I'm playing right. I don't mind you getting beat. I got my whipped many times. But I tell you, I took somebody down with me. You are a professional team. Act like one, for God's sakes.
Football fans, this is Buffone 55. The John Buffone Show.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Buffone 55, the fastest-paced Chicago Bears football podcast available. I'm your host, John Buffone. It's great to be back talking Chicago Bears football, barflies, and there's plenty to talk about. As you might tell, my voice is a little hurt today, but we play through pain on this podcast. Nothing's going to keep me from jumping on the mic and talking Bears football. Joining me tonight is Danny Shimon, the scouting analyst for the Bears Barroom. If you do the Twitter thing, you better be following Danny on Twitter. He has some excellent scouting reports with focuses on players who might fit into the Bears system. His Twitter handle is dshimon, SHIMON 56. Before we get to Danny, my producer Aldo Gandia and we always start the show the same way. You old battle axe, Aldo, how you doing? Tell the people how the show works.
Well, first of all, are you okay? Can you make it through?
I'm telling you what, I'm doing the best I can. I got 5 cups of tea beside me, some water. I'm doing everything I can. We're going to get through this.
Have you been in the gym at all?
No, you know what? You know how serious this is? I've been out of the gym for a week.
Oh, my goodness.
I might be dying.
That's not John Buffone. It's this, whatever you've got, you can call it kryptonite.
Yeah, well, I don't know what it is, but we're going to battle through it. We, like I said, this is a podcast that pushes through the pain. Let's do it.
There you go. All right. We always begin and end the show with our B55 segment. That's where I ask John 5 questions. He has 55 seconds to answer each question. The 55, of course, is a tribute to his uncle, Doug Buffone, who you heard at the top of the show. He played 15 seasons with the Chicago Bears. Let's do this. John, your thoughts. We're going to, first of all, this first set of questions is going to be more NFL-based because I wanted to get your idea on all this activity that's been going on. Your thoughts on the 2 wide receiver trades, big trades, Antonio Brown to the Oakland Raiders and Odell Beckham Jr. to the Cleveland Browns. Share your thoughts, and you got 55 seconds.
Well, I thought Antonio Brown kind of sabotaged his trade value. He doesn't care about that, but he also limited where he could go. The Bills apparently pulled out because there were rumors he didn't want to go to Buffalo. And all in all, he got what he wanted, a new team and a raise. And the Steelers take a dead cap hit bigger than any other team is attributing to a receiver that's actually on their roster. As far as Beckham goes, the Giants just straight up bailed. It's like they're rebuilding, then they're not rebuilding. They're sticking with a 39-year-old quarterback that can't play dead in a Western. They let Landon Collins walk. They unloaded Snacks Harrison and Eli Apple midseason last year. They trade off Olivier Vernon. They bring in Golden Tate for some reason, who is 30 years old. So now what? You drafted Saquon Barkley last year at number 2, a running back, not a huge shelf life there, and he's only on his rookie deal for another 4 years. So they have like $90 million in cap space for 2020, but they're definitely punting on 2019 without a doubt. And they're hoping to throw something together quickly in 2020. OBJ may not be thrilled that he's going to Cleveland, but guess what? Cleveland is a much better situation right now than the New York Giants. I never thought I'd be able to say that.
Isn't that something? All right, question number 2. Le'Veon Bell signs with the New York Jets for 4 years, $52 million, with $35 million of that guaranteed. Lots of talk on Twitter sphere this week about the Bears showing interest. Do you think the Bears really showed interest in Le'Veon Bell? And were the Bears willing to risk not having enough cap space to sign players like Eddie Jackson, Cody Whitehair, Tariq Cohen, and the other young players who are going to command hefty pay raises of their own over the next 2-3 years? You got 55 seconds.
No, I don't think they were ever serious. It was a little exciting to hear the Bears connected to Bell, but when you think about the money that was going to be invested in him, it was just so hard to justify it. When it comes down to it, it was hard to take the side that Lev Bell actually won through all this mess of a situation. Turned down $14.5 million guaranteed off that franchise tag last year. Turned down $33 million guaranteed last year. To make $35 million guaranteed this year, the Steelers' offer was $70 million with $33 guaranteed. 45 was to be paid over the first 3 years. Now it's $52 million contract, and $2 million more is guaranteed. But you aren't accounting for that $14.5 million that was guaranteed last year. So he lost money. If this was what Le'Veon Bell wanted, Godspeed. I'm all for players being empowered and getting the money while they can, but we hear about players betting on themselves a lot. Well, this guy bet on himself and lost. He's still a tremendous talent. He's still a tremendous player. He might get another contract, but it's hard to argue that he didn't lose in this whole situation.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to look at that. Now, he did tell ESPN back in October that he was concerned about the wear and tear. The Steelers were putting him under 400 snaps, 400 carries, that is, a season. That's what he was averaging over the course of his Steelers career. It is quite a load for a human being, but so maybe he really just wanted to take the season off and recuperate. Who knows?
Maybe, but he's not exactly going to an air raid offense in the Jets.
That is for sure. All right, back to the Browns. You mentioned them earlier. They have made some dramatic moves. Besides the Beckham acquisition, that also included Olivia Vernon. They signed Sheldon Richardson, inside linebacker Darius Taylor, and of course Kareem Hunt was signed a month ago. We'll see how long he has to sit out. But this team appears to be making a turnaround. Am I right or am I wrong? Are they going to be a contender? 55 seconds, go.
100% yes. I thought the Browns were a solid team last year. They had some bad breaks from seriously contending for a playoff spot. Remember, they tied a game they could have won against Pittsburgh. They should have beat New Orleans in overtime and should have beat the Raiders in overtime. Enter Freddie Kitchens, who I'm guessing is already better than Hugh Jackson. Baker Mayfield is getting the controls right away. No Tyrod Taylor. They're taking a shot on Kareem Hunt. Nick Chubb's already there. No Carlos Hyde getting in the way this year. They bring in Olivia Vernon, Sheldon Richardson. They add that to Myles Garrett on the front four. Oh, and let's add Odell freaking Beckham Jr. They remind me of the Bears a little bit. Build your base with the draft, the quarterback, the running back, the defense. Then add complementary players at wide receiver and along the front seven. They have an offensive coach, much like the Bears do, and an aggressive yet kind of calculated GM in John Dorsey. Enter Ryan Pace. Clearly, I am not a Browns fan. I'm not rooting for the Browns to win a Super Bowl or anything like that, but it is exciting to see the Browns relevant, and I'm going to be excited to watch this team next year. The Browns are going to get some primetime games. How about that?
Yeah, how about that? I got a dear friend who is a Cleveland Browns fan, and every year when I see him about once or twice a year, and every time I just rib him about the Browns. I just give it to him, and I don't think I can do that any longer.
Yeah, your time's limited.
Right. All right, question number 4, and we have to talk about that team up north, the Packers. They made some news with some prominent signings on defense, Za'Darius Smith and Preston Smith. They will replace Clay Matthews and Nick Perry. And, of course, Adrian Amos is now their starting strong safety. Now, Vegas has now given them better odds of winning the Super Bowl than the Bears. I know you want more than 55 seconds to respond to this, but you only got 55, and the clock starts when you start.
Oh, who the hell cares? Packers Twitter is nauseating sometimes. I'm positive that they think the same towards Bears Twitter sometimes, but man, I always say a little self-awareness goes a long way. The Packers went 6-9-1 last year, 2 straight losing seasons. A rookie head coach that you hope meshes well with Aaron Rodgers' personality, which from what I gather is about as appetizing as a wet Triscuit. And you're sticking it to the Bears by signing Adrian Amos? Yeah, you finally got one, didn't you? You wanted Vic Fangio, didn't get him. Wanted Kyle Fuller, didn't get him. Wanted Allen Robinson, didn't get him. I love Adrian Amos, but bragging about signing him speaks volumes. Yes, Za'Darius Smith is a good player. It was a good signing. $66 million. Preston Smith, 4 sacks last year, 30 total tackles, $52 million. That's nice and all, but you're going to have to hit on the draft once in a while. You invested a pretty penny in that secondary the past couple years. Let's see if that works out. Lay the rosters side by side, the Bears and the Packers, to 100 neutral people. What roster do you think they're going to pick? The majority of the people are going to pick the Bears roster right now.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And I'll tell you what, if those folks up north come down to try to get our deep dish pizza, I won't have that.
well, you will have a war, so that goes without saying.
Exactly. All right, question number 5 before we bring Danny in here. What other NFL team do you believe has helped themselves so far in free agency? 55 seconds.
Now, I think Buffalo's had a sneaky good haul so far. Everyone was giving them crap for Antonio Brown apparently not wanting to go there. But they go out and they sign John Brown and Cole Beasley, 2 very different receivers, 2 different skill sets, and that gives Josh Allen a lot of options. They also bring in a 6'6" tight end in Tyler Kroft out of Cincinnati. They get center Mitch Morse to shore up that line, and the ageless wonder Frank Gore. Shady, LaShawn McCoy, and Frank Gore, that's about 25,000 rushing yards in the backfield. Frank Gore is something like 520 yards away from passing Barry Sanders on the all-time rushing list. That would put him at number 3. Frank Gore is the Subaru of the NFL. He's all-wheel drive, he runs well in the weather, and it's not unheard of to see one with 200,000 miles on it. He's not flashy, but he's reliable as hell. I love Frank Gore. Yes, I allowed Frank Gore to hijack this segment, but damn it, he deserves it. The fact that the number 3 rushing leader of all time is going to be playing in a pass-heavy, rush-by-committee era is incredible. Put Frank Gore in Canton right now. I love Frank Gore. He might be playing until he's 50.
Excellent work. All right, why don't you bring in our man Danny Shimon?
Danny Shimon, he's a great analyst here at Bears Barroom. He's here to break down all the possible prospects that the Bears might fit into their system come draft time. Danny, I hope your voice is in better shape than mine is. How you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing good. Thanks, John. Man, I mean, tell you, I'm right now. I'm standing up. Got a ovation here. Got a clap going for you. You're playing hurt here, buddy.
I'm doing everything I can. I'm trying to be as audible as possible. But let's jump into this. I understand you're targeting 3 position areas you think the Bears will address via the draft. One's running back. And before we talk about potential prospects, what do you think about the Bears' newest free agent acquisition in Mike Davis, who played with the Seahawks last year? Got to see a little bit of tape on him, but I'd like to hear your take on him.
Yeah, I think it's a really solid pickup. I really liked it a lot. As I mentioned, last year he's coming off of his so far his career best season in terms of in the NFL, rushing for 514 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's a former 4th-round pick of the 49ers. For whatever reason, it just didn't work out there in San Francisco, and then he ended up getting cut and ended up picking up with the Seahawks. And I think the last couple of seasons he's had 8 starts. And just going back to my notes when he was coming out of the draft back in 2015, and some of the things still come up here. He runs hard, he's got good leg drive. He's a tough in between the tackles runner. He's got some shake to his game. Able to make guys miss at the line of scrimmage. And surprisingly, he shows some really good burst and really good speed in terms of. Now he's not a home run hitter per se. He's a guy who can bust off a 20 or 30-yard run. So he's got some of that electricity in him. And of course, his strength is his ability to catch out of the backfield. So if you look at the way the Chiefs have used their backs in the past, this guy fits similar to the way the Kareem Hunts and the guy that took over for Hunt. I think it was Williams last year. Once Hunt got suspended. A guy who can run between the tackles, good out of the backfield. He's got a burst, got some speed to him. So I think it's a good solid pickup. Now, obviously, he's been part of a rotation, a committee over in Seattle. I think he'll be part of a committee, obviously, here in Chicago, whether that's with Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen, or if that's with a draft pick and Tariq Cohen. But in terms of him being a full workhorse, carry the load, 27 carries a game guy, I don't think that's him. He tends to kind of wear down as the more carries you give him. One of his drawbacks in terms of both college and the pros are he always gets these little knick-knack pains. Whether it's an ankle or shoulder or rib, hamstring, toe. Stuff like that really slows him down. He'll have like 2 good games, and all of a sudden he'll have something. An injury will, kind of slows him down. So I think putting him in a committee in a backfield with, like I say, Howard and Cohen, or a rookie and Cohen, would be ideal for Davis.
Yeah, it sounds like he could be a good fit in that Matt Nagy offense. Now, let's talk about some of the prospects now. Miles Sanders out of Penn State. I live in Central PA, and this guy is beloved around here. But ball security has been a little bit of an issue to him. What do you know about Miles Sanders, and who is his comp? We always hear about the NFL comp. Because that gives people a better understanding of what kind of a player they're getting if they can kind of put him beside a player that's already established. Who's Miles Sanders' comp, and what do you think about his game?
Well, I like Sanders a lot in terms of, the athlete himself. He's 5'11", 211 pounds. He's very, like I said, very well built, strong lower body, plays with good contact balance and body lean. Another one who's effective runner between the tackles. He's quick and shifty. He's got instincts. You can see he's got a feel for the running game. He's got a vision. He can see the cutbacks. And he also is a decent threat out of the backfield in terms of the passing game. And he's real solid, in terms of pass protection. In terms of a comp in the NFL that everyone would probably know, I don't know if this is a great comp, but I would say the closest would be LaShawn McCoy. And because of the way he's shiftiness, the way he has vision, he can see not only at the first level of the defense, also at the second and third levels. He sets up blocks well. So he doesn't have the home run speed that McCoy had when he first came into the league with the Eagles, but he does have that shiftiness, the ability to make you miss. Again, this guy might not be known or well known around, stringent college football fans because, he sat behind a guy named Saquon Barkley for pretty much most of his career and just had just 1 year last year to show what he could do. And what he put on tape was pretty impressive that one season.
And we're talking about running backs here with Danny Shimon on Buffone 55, Bears Barroom Radio Network. Another one, David Montgomery, Iowa State. Is he more of a gap power running back? Is that how you would describe him? He was one of the top running backs in this draft. He might be the best pass catcher, or at least he's among the most productive with 71 catches in 3 seasons. Greg Gabriel writes in the 2019 Pro Football Weekly Draft Guide that Montgomery lacks the home run hitting quality. Would you agree with your former teacher there that he lacks that? What's the breakdown here on Montgomery?
Well, going with the first question, I think Montgomery can play in either a gap power scheme or a zone scheme. He's got the ability in terms of patience and the ability to get behind his pads and tough out those yards and get behind his linemen to run in a power scheme. But he also has the vision and the ability to plant and cut his feet and find the cutback lane to run in a zone scheme as well. So I think, and when you watch his tape, you see Iowa State utilizing both of these, blocking schemes. You see some power, you see some zone. So I definitely think he could play in either offense. In terms of pass catcher, he is probably one of the best pass catchers in the draft. Natural hands, he can catch out of the backfield, catch it on the run, can contour his body, can adjust to the ball. He's one of the best pass protection guys, running backs as well in the draft. And this guy will just flat out lay out linebackers who are trying to come in and blitz his quarterback. So that's a definite positive for him. And in terms of home run speed, he does not have that. And that's probably one of his only weaknesses, to be honest with you, is his ability. He does not have the home run hitting ability. He'll run off a 15-yard run or a 20-yard run, but in terms of give him the ball and have him go 50 yards to the house, he doesn't have that kind of speed. But he is tough, and he is one of the better backs in this draft. And if it wasn't for that lack of home run hitting speed, I don't even think he'd be available in the third round, to be honest with you. But he might even be available in the third round. But it's just someone that, because of that speed, and this game now in the NFL is predicated, on speed, especially from the skill positions. That might knock him down a little bit. But other than that, I mean, this guy is going to be, in my opinion, he's going to be a day one starter in the NFL.
You got me excited when you said he could blow up a linebacker. That's probably one of my favorite attributes from I think from not even just a football player standpoint, from a human standpoint. I think that's my favorite attribute from somebody. Let's go. Let's talk about a Golden Domer, Dexter Williams. You were down at the Senior Bowl and got a close look. What'd you see in Dexter Williams?
Yeah, Dexter Williams is a guy that actually I was, like you said, on him prior to going down to Mobile. Knowing the Bears had a need at running back and were probably going to address that need sometime during this draft, I really focused in on that group down in Mobile prior to going down there. So, and when you put on this tape, I mean, the one thing you'll see about this guy, first of all, he too has tremendous size. He's 5'11", 212 pounds. And the way he's got that, besides the physique, he's got athletically everything you're looking for in a running back. He's got the shiftiness, the quick feet. He's got a bounce in his step, and he's got the ability to hit the home run. So this is a guy that once he plants his foot, cuts, sees a hole, he will just explode. I mean, you see him busting off 50, 60-yard runs, and no one's catching him. So, when I look at Nagy and what I envision he wants at a running back, he wants that type of ability. He wants someone to be able to give him that home run hitting ability from the backfield. Now, Cohen's got some of that, but Cohen's not an every down back. A guy like Williams, with that body, with that athleticism, with the speed, I think he was fit in nicely with the Bears.
Let's move to a running back from Florida Atlantic, Devin Singletary. Stock took a little bit of a hit over at the Combine. Kind of has a comp to Tariq Cohen, but he took a hit at the Combine. What happened there?
Yeah, I think all the scouts are asking, too, what happened there. I'm not sure. I think a lot of people were surprised with his 40 time. Now, albeit, Singletary is not a burner. He probably has the quickest feet in the draft for running backs. I mean, his ability to make people miss in the hole at the second level is pretty special. But in terms of being able to take it the distance, he doesn't have that home run hitting speed. And those are one of the things I put down about him in terms of negatives. But what surprised me, though, was his 7.323 cone. Now, I know that test is usually done to test the guy's agility, their lateral quickness, and so on and so forth. And he ran a 7.32. I mean, we have fullbacks. The kid from Wisconsin, Alex Ingold, ran a 7.35 3-cone. So that was a really shocked me. But every year we see guys test well, we see guys test poorly. We just go back to the tape and say, all right, what do you do on tape? And Singletary definitely is a guy that has got the ability to make you miss in the hole. Again, what surprised me, he's got the toughness to be able to lower his shoulder, run behind his pads, and finish runs. So for a guy who's only 5'7", 203 pounds. So comparing him to Tariq Cohen, I don't think that's a good comparison because, first of all, Cohen's faster. Second of all, Singletary has about 20-some pounds on Cohen. And like I just said, he's got some yak ability to lower shoulder, ability to bounce off of defenders down the field. So I think Cohen, he's got the elusiveness, he's got the speed. But in terms of finishing, I don't think he can finish like Singletary.
A guy I'm excited to talk about mainly just because who his father is, Elijah Holyfield from Georgia. His dad, he was a pretty solid boxer, you could say. His dad was the real deal Holyfield. Is Elijah Holyfield the real deal? What do we know about him?
I like him. I mean, I like him a lot. He had a horrible combine. He ran a 4.78. He only had a 29.5 vertical jump. But what this kid does is he's one tough SOB. All you got to do, if you want to become a fan of Elijah Holyfield, or if you question his toughness or his ability to run, put on Georgia's game versus LSU this past season. I think John Battle, the safety for LSU, is still looking to see what car ran him over. This kid is tough. He's, again, in between the tackles runner. He's got quick feet. He can jump in and out of holes. And like I said, he can lower his shoulder. He will run over guys and will finish his runs. Now, the one knock about him, he's only had 7 career receptions at Georgia. They really never used him in the passing game. The couple of receptions that I saw him actually catch were balls out of the backfield, like screens and stuff like that, and dump off. So, and he caught those well. He caught those clean, used his hands. So, but he's never actually been asked to line up to run routes in the game. He was actually asked to run routes as a slot receiver in practice as a junior. As a freshman. Coaches were trying to use him as a slot receiver, but never actually used in the game. So we don't have it on tape, him actually making catches. So you go by what you can see, and you go by his stats. And 7 career receptions, it tells you he's not really utilizing the passing game. So that's a question mark about him.
All right, let's run through another position. You said that the Bears need to address the tight end position. Before we get into the prospects, I want to ask you why, since Trey Burton, Adam Shaheen, and Brett Broniker are all under contract, why do you think this is a position the Bears might be targeting?
Well, last year the Bears carried 5 tight ends, right? So right now they only have 3 under contract. So they cut Deion Sims, and that was their Y inline blocker, if you will, tight end. So Shaheen, this year is going to be a big year for him. It's going to be it's his 3rd year in the NFL. I think it's going to be a prove-it year for him. So, but he always has an issue with staying healthy, whether it's an ankle, whether it's a shoulder or back or whatnot. And Burton, I think Burton had a good year last year, but I also think that towards the end of the season, I think he kind of wore down. He's not the biggest guy out there. So, and I think he's more valuable as a move tight end, Burton that is, as a move tight end lining up in the slot, possibly even out wide by the numbers as a receiver. So getting him out away from the congestion in the middle of the field, I think, is key for Burton. And then you have Braunecker. I mean, Braunecker, let's be honest, nice guy, but he's mainly a special teams guy. So that's why I think tight end is a position of need. I think it's a position that they are going to draft. I was actually surprised they didn't make an effort to go after Dwayne Allen, the guy that the Patriots cut. He's a pretty good inline blocker. So that guy could have come in and probably filled in the role that Deion Sims had here on the squad. But he ended up going with the Dolphins. So, but I think they can probably bring in a couple more tight ends. I think they'll draft one for sure, and then probably sign a veteran, I'm assuming, towards the end of this free agent phase.
Let's talk about some of these prospects now. I want to talk first about Dax Raymond out of Utah State. Looked great at the Senior Bowl and apparently has a big old set of bear claws for hands. What do we know about Dax Raymond out of Utah State?
Yeah, another guy I was looking at prior to the Senior Bowl, and I think Alden and I were sitting at one of the practices, and he just kept making play after play, and he had a couple nice catches. So dug into some of his tape, and he's more of one of these these move tight ends, these guys that flank out wide in the slot, and you'll see Raymond predominantly lining up in the slot. So when I first looked at him, I'm like, all right, this is just a move tight end. This guy, he can catch, he can extend, so on and so forth. But when I went back after the Senior Bowl and dug more into his tape, he's actually not a bad inline blocker as well. He's not. His play strength isn't the greatest. Of course, I think he took a 2-year mission and was away from football for 2 years. So he's got to get back in the gym and get some core strength back on there. But I think he has the willingness and the want to succeed in terms of being a blocker and being a quote unquote full tight end. So he's got some promising traits. He is 24 years old. Again, because of the mission, he was a little bit later. And actually, he's a junior, and that's one of the reasons he listed why he came out earlier is because of the fact that for his age group, he really should be at the next level, and that's one of the main reasons he said he came out.
Let's talk about a guy you've been on for months. This is your boy, Josh Oliver. Why do you like this boy? And tell us a little bit more about him. Can you convince us?
Well, this is the guy I'm sure Aldo is tired of me talking about him because I think every time prior to the Senior Bowl and actually while we were down at the Senior Bowl, I kept telling him, Josh Oliver, keep an eye on Josh Oliver. So what happens? Of course, Josh Oliver does nothing during the Senior Bowl week. And Aldo's like, what are you talking about, the Josh Oliver guy? Anyway, so he goes to the combine and has a terrific combine, shows his straight line speed, shows his athleticism. But what I like about him is, the size, the athletic frame, long arms, huge hands, right? He's versatile. This guy lined up in the slot. He lined up, he flexed out wide. He lined up, actually in line, so he can do them all. And he is a very good blocker. Some are going to knock him for his blocking. I've seen some knock him for his blocking, but I disagree. This guy can line up and he can block. Now he's not the best blocking tight end in this draft, but he's a guy that can, from day one, if you need him to come in and line up in line next to a tackle and block a linebacker or a defensive end, I think he can do it. And what he does when he blocks, what I love, and Aldo can attest to this, I love when guys finish their blocks, and he will finish his block. He will bury a guy if he has to.
You heard it here first. Danny Shimon says Arizona Cardinals taking Josh Oliver #1 overall. You heard it right here on Bears Barroom Radio Network. We're talking about tight end prospects. I want to talk about Jay Sternberg out of, I believe, Texas A&M. This guy really hasn't put up much on his tape, but he's got only one season of football. We know a little bit about that from the quarterback position. What's his story? What do you know about him?
Yeah, he's a guy that transferred from Kansas and really played just 1 year of football at Texas A&M. But this guy is just another, again, in colleges, I keep producing these move tight ends. I mean, a lot of these colleges, it's very hard. Trust me, it's very hard to find a tight end that can actually be both an inline blocker and a pass catcher. But a majority of these guys are all move tight ends, guys that flank out wide or in the slot. And Sternberger is one of those guys as well. He's got terrific height. Good length, he's a good athlete. He's got good straight line speed. And he's a seam stretcher. He's a guy that can get down the seam, and allow defenses or make defenses respect him, respect his speed. Natural hands catcher. I watched 6 of his games. And I didn't see him drop a pass. So, I mean, this guy's definitely, he's got, tremendous hands. And he's a guy that's athletically that can move. You can move him all the way around. I mean, I've seen them use him in a way that's similar to the way that the Chiefs used Travis Kelce. I mean, he's getting screens out of the backfield. He's slot and going deep, so on and so forth. So he's a guy that can, you bring him in. He can't block though. This guy cannot block for lick. So he's a guy that is strictly going to be a guy who you line up on the slot as a move tight end. You probably don't want to line him up in line, right away. You're gonna have to work on that. But if you're looking for a guy that's gonna be a playmaker, downfield, another quote unquote security blanket for Trubisky, this kid can do it.
Last tight end I want to talk about, Caleb Wilson out of UCLA. It's an interesting name. His dad is a defensive line coach for the Eagles. What do you know about this kid? What do you like about him?
Yeah, again, another guy that this guy he caught my eye last year when I was scouting Josh Rosen and in a game versus Texas A&M where UCLA was down big and they made a huge comeback in the second half, and Rosen and Caleb Wilson really were the catalyst behind that comeback. And again, another guy that's got the length. He can stretch, extend away from his body and reel in the catch. Natural hands catcher. He doesn't have the speed and the athleticism, at least on tape. He tested well at the combine, but on tape he's a little high-waisted, if you will. He's more all legs and not much upper body. But he's a guy that definitely can, if you get him in like the 6th, 7th round, late day 3. If you haven't done anything yet. In terms of at the tight end position, because you're so limited, the Bears are limited with draft picks. If he's there, possibly even as an undrafted free agent, I'm not sure if he'll go undrafted, but if he is available there, definitely a guy I'd bring into camp and take a look at. A guy who will block. He's a guy that not great at, but he will block. And like I said, he's a natural hands catcher. A guy who's got the frame, has got the length, and be able to go up and be a red zone target.
I want to switch positions real quick. The last position you think the Bears are going to pinpoint in the draft, we're talking about cornerback. This position lacked depth last year, so I can see why you have this on your list. But before we talk about your prospects, what are your thoughts on Kevin Tolliver, who saw some action in 6 games last year? Is he going to get an increased role this year, do you think?
Yeah, I like Tolliver. Coming out of the draft last year, I was kind of surprised he wasn't drafted. So the Bears were able to get him as an undrafted free agent, which is a plus. The Bears fans, they probably have a bad, feeling about him or whatnot because of he was thrown in a couple times in the line of fire. Right off the bench, a guy got hurt. He was kind of put in and didn't look all too great. But he's got the size, the length, and the speed to be able to play. Outside cornerback on the Bears. So he's definitely a guy, a prospect that I like to see them continue to nourish and develop. The one thing that's going to hurt is Ed Donatel left. He's one of the better defensive secondary coaches in the NFL. He left to be Vic Fangio's defensive coordinator in Denver. So I hope that does not stop the progression and the development that these young guys were making under Donatel's watch. So definitely a guy I'm looking forward to watching this preseason. Tolliver, that is.
Let's jump into the prospects. Lonnie Johnson Jr. From Kentucky. He has some physical traits that make him intriguing from what your reports say. You saw him at the Senior Bowl. What do you see?
This guy's a dude. I mean, I was going to say.
I like dudes. Dude. That's good.
Yeah. I mean, this guy will come up and if it's even if it's his mother, he'll hit her so hard to try and knock her head off.
Draft him now.
Literally, he's combative with receivers. He will get in your face. He'll tell you you're not good. There were some wars. Although you might remember, it was with Deebo Samuel that he was getting into with at the Senior Bowl practices. Yep. But I mean, this guy was constantly talking, and there was a play. It was a non-contact play where they threw a screen pass to the running back. He just came up and he blew him up. A non-contact play, and he just came up and he blew him up because he wanted to. This guy loves to hit. He's a physical press corner. He's got the ability. He's got the feet to be able to mirror. To be able to, stay in phase with the receiver downfield in terms of a press guy with size and nasty demeanor. Lonnie Johnson's your guy. As a matter of fact, if I could draft the entire Kentucky secondary for the Bears, I would love to do that.
I'm going to draft Lonnie Johnson Jr. on my fantasy team, even though he's a defensive player. And I already got the fat head ordered. I'm looking for him on Twitter. I'm not sure if he has a handle or not, but everything you just told me about him has made him my new favorite player. So Lonnie Johnson, the Bears, book it. Another guy I want to talk about, Sean Bunting out of Central Michigan. Matt Miller of the Bleacher Report writes that no one is talking about Bunting. Well, Danny, you are. What do you see in Bunting? What do you like?
Yeah, this is a kid that caught my eye. I forgot I was watching someone else, and then I'm like, who's this kid can play? He's a taller corner. He's 6 feet, 195 pounds, around a 4.4 240. So he's got the recovery speed. Now, he's got the let's say the Deion Sanders effect, if you will. He only tackles when he has to tackle. He's not a come up and he's the opposite of Lonnie Johnson. If he doesn't hit you, he won't hit you. But what he'll do, he's got the speed, the quickness, and he's got the loose hips to be able to flip and run at the line of scrimmage. And he's going to be a pretty good cover corner, I think, in the NFL. Only a junior, like I said, came out early, but he's got some traits that I really like. And like I said, if you're going to be playing. If Pagano is going to be more aggressive, he's going to be sending more guys in, you're going to be asking your corners to do a lot more man-to-man coverage downfield. And I think those are the kind of corners the Bears are going to start looking at, is guys who can play man-to-man, guys who can mirror downfield.
Bunting's teammate, Xavier Crawford, also a Central Michigan guy, not as highly regarded, but you like him. Why?
I like him because he's feisty. I was watching him, and I'm like, this guy reminds me of somebody. And I kept racking my brain, and I'm like, Tim Jennings. He reminds me of Tim Jennings. Remember the guy from the Bears way back when Lucas Smith here? Feisty, a guy who's 5'11", 187 pounds. But you know what? He'll battle you. He don't care if he's going up against a 6'1" or 6'2" receiver. He will not back down. He's got the ability as well, just like his teammate Bunting, to be able to press and play downfield, mirror downfield. Although he's not as athletic as Bunting. He doesn't have the flexibility that Bunting does. So he's got some limitations at that aspect of it, but in terms of being able to come up and press and even playing off in terms of off coverage and then coming downhill, clicking and closing, coming downhill and wrapping up, this kid can do it. He's not athletically as gifted as Bunting is in terms of flexibility. Speed wise, he's okay. He ran a 4.48. He doesn't look like a 4.48 guy on tape, but. He's a guy, like I said, if you are going to be able to get one guy late in the draft, we're talking about 5th, 6th round, a guy who will come in and compete and doesn't care if he's going up against the tallest receiver or the shortest receiver. He'll give you max effort, and he's a guy that I feel will be able to play. And both these guys, by the way, have demonstrated that the ability that ball skills. These guys can both get the ball, their hands on the ball in terms of pass defended and interception. So I think Crawford had 2 interceptions, but he had 24 pass broken ups over his career. And Bunting's numbers I don't have in front of me right now, but both these guys are ball hawks. Both these guys can get their hands on the ball.
Solid group of players there. I want to talk about David Long real quick. Greg Gabriel thinks Long can become a good slot corner, something the Bears may have addressed in free agency, but maybe didn't. What's your take on him?
I like David Long. I like him a lot. That's funny because another Barroom contributor, Bellissimo, I call him as my. We've been going back and forth in terms of David Long. So Long impressed me at the combine. He's one of the guys that I'm like, wow, he would look phenomenal in the drills. He ran I think a 4.4 240. Looked terrific in all the agility drills and everything like that. I turn on his tape and I see a guy who's a physical corner who will not back down, who's got the ability to who utilizes the sideline very well. He uses his offhand very well, places it on a receiver and kind of knows where he's at. And like I said, uses the sideline to his advantage, kind of tries to nudge the receiver outside. So I see him more as an outside corner, but you just mentioned Greg sees him more as an interior or a slot corner, and so does Bellissimo as well. So he's a guy that I'm doing some more studying on, because when I saw him be a little vulnerable to the inside slants, but it doesn't mean that he can't do it. So, but his 3-cone test was one of the top of the combine. I think it was like a 6.95 or 6.75, something like that. So, but definitely a guy that if they're able to get their hands on this guy's definitely going to be a player, in my opinion.
The last cornerback I want to talk about, Justin Lane out of Michigan State, a corner that Mel Kiper thinks could go in round 2. What's your scouting report on him? He's kind of a versatile athlete.
Yeah, This guy actually was a receiver. He came into Michigan State as a receiver, and then I think it was freshman year they flipped him over to defense. Again, another guy, 6'2" and change. He's got the length. He's got the speed. He's got the flexibility and to be able to mirror and press downfield. The only thing about him is play strength. He's not really strong at the line of scrimmage, basically. So if he goes to jam, doesn't always reroute the receiver. He's got some technique things he can work on. Obviously, understandable. He is a former receiver. He's still kind of learning the position, but definitely a guy who's got the traits that you look for: the length, the speed, and also the ability to get his hands on the ball as well. So definitely intrigued by Justin Layne.
Before I let you go, Danny, I got to talk about the kicking situation in Chicago. The Bears have signed 2 kickers to compete in camp: Redford Jones and Chris Blewett. Kickers coming out of college that you'd like to see Pace maybe go after, or maybe an undrafted free agent to go after? Anybody on the radar for you, maybe?
Well, listening to Pace speak at the Combine, he said one of the things he looks at or when he's trying to evaluate kickers is he wants to turn his head or turn his back to the kicker and have them kick the ball. He wants to hear the sound the ball makes or the foot makes when it hits the ball. So the one guy, because as soon as he said that, the one guy I thought of was his kicker from Utah, Matt Gay. Off the top of my head, I don't know his numbers, but he was on at the Senior Bowl, and I was scouting a lot of his teammates, and I watching on the tape. When this kid kicks the ball, you hear the thud, you hear his foot hitting the ball, and so that's a guy that I wouldn't spend a draft pick on him. Right, That's a guy if you want to bring in as an undrafted free agent. If he goes undrafted, that's a guy I would bring in and at least bring him to camp, give him a look and see if he can compete with Chris Blewett. Which, I can't. Every time I say his name, I want to laugh. and Redford Jones. So can we name him to Chris Made It? Is there a way we can make a name?
He's got to make it first. Let's make sure that's not an appropriate name.
But Matt Gay is a guy from Utah, a kicker, that if they can get him into camp, like I said, I wouldn't use a draft pick on any kicker in this draft. But if they can get him into camp as an undrafted free agent, he's a guy I'm very intrigued with. He's got a heavy foot. He can kick. I think he's kicked a 65-yarder in his career. So he's got a strong leg, and let's give him a chance if we can get him through the whole draft process and not have him get drafted.
All right, before we let Danny go, Aldo, do we have any chat room questions for our Scoutmaster?
Yeah, I got a couple. Danny, great job. Lots of compliments on the chat room. I want to ask you, Harp4803 wondered if you'd seen any tape on Darrell Henderson, the junior running back out of Memphis.
I did. I tweeted out my reports. I can tweet them out again for him. But another guy here, Henderson, very productive kid. He's a guy that has got that, just like we were talking about earlier with Dexter Williams, he's got that home run hitting speed. He's got the ability to plant, cut, and go. The only thing about him is he runs a little upright, so he takes a couple of body blows that I feel are unnecessary. So he's got to learn to lower his pad level, run a little bit better behind his pads. But he's definitely a kid who's got explosiveness. He's got the lateral agility. Like I said, big play, straight line speed. Anticipation, and another guy, he's got the natural running skill. The guy's got the vision. He can see cutback lanes developing. Before they're even open, he can feel them developing. You can see this. When these guys have this vision, this feel for running. And Henderson is definitely one of those guys. Again, he hits the hole quick. He's got that burst, and once he plants and accelerates, he's pretty much gone as well.
And then one other question on that running back situation: the Bryce Love, who suffered a tough injury in his senior year at Stanford. Did you hear anything about how he's doing when you were down at the Combine? And just what are your overall thoughts on Love?
Yeah, Love, unfortunately, tore his ACL, I believe it was in December. So this is going to be, those are year-long injuries. So he didn't participate in any of the activities at the Combine, and he's probably not going to participate in anything at Stanford's Pro Day. But he's definitely a guy that intrigues me in terms of big play potential. But he's not a guy that if you're looking to bring in and possibly eventually to be a bell cow, a guy you can give the ball to 25 to 30 times. I don't think he's that. He doesn't have that stature. He doesn't have that frame. But what he does have the ability to reel off big runs out of the backfield. He can also he's a decent catcher. Didn't see a lot on tape in terms of him actually running routes or patterns, but from what I saw him catching screens, balls in the flat, looks like he's a decent, receiver as well. So, but unfortunately, I don't think he's a bell cow, carry the ball 25 to 30 times a game guy. So if you're going to bring in Mike Davis to be part of your rotation, you already have Tariq Cohen. I'm assuming this guy that they're going to bring in is going to be someone that they'll eventually pass the torch on to. If Davis is going to be the starter for this year, eventually this guy will take over, whether it's next year or the year after that. So Bryce Love is a good player, don't get me wrong, but unfortunately he's got two things going against him. He doesn't have the size that I'm thinking the Bears are looking for, and I also his injury. He will miss this whole season. So going into the draft, you only have 5 picks to use one of those 5 picks on a guy that's probably not going to redshirt his first year. That's kind of tough.
All right, Danny, before we boot you out of here, let people know how they can follow you on social media and see all your stuff. You put in a lot of work on this. People need to be checking it out.
Yeah, I'm at DShimon56. That's DSHIMON 56. Barroom guys have been awesome. They've been hitting me up and telling me all these guys they want me to scout. I've been going on, watching the tape, grinding it out, and putting out my scouting report. So again, if there's anyone out there, any player, if I can get tape on them, I'll give you a report and my thoughts on them. Just
awesome. Danny Shimon from Bears Barroom, scout analyst extraordinaire. Great stuff, Danny. Thank you so much. Hope to talk to you down the line.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
John, I have to apologize for cutting you off, and Danny, I got this.
Aldo, I can take a hint. All right.
I got this little twitch in my index finger. A lot of stuff has been going on. My index finger's twitching, my eyes twitching. I don't know what's happening.
Man, our guys, usually you fall asleep at the wheel. Now you're over a little too much caffeine over there.
I think so. The Starbucks double espresso's working too much.
Man.
All right, we are now doing the second half of our B55. How's the voice holding up?
We're doing the best we can. I hope it sounds all right.
It sure does. And great interview with Danny Shimon. He is indeed a fantastic follow on Twitter. I sent it out in the chat room at DSHIMON56. I think 56 was his favorite number when he played football. And he's always very accommodating. If you have a request for him, he will work hard to try to get you a response. So I'm just killing time to hopefully you're sipping on some tea with some lemon, and let's get to this, okay?
That is professional vamping. Thank you.
You got it, brother. All right. Question number 1 in the back half here. Which of the Bears free agent signings excites you the most?
Well, it was Cordero Patterson until today, and now it's Clinton Dix. I mean, you get your heir apparent to Adrian Amos. You get him for a third of the price. You're going to sacrifice a little bit in the physicality realm. He's not going to be as a physical tackler as Amos was, but he makes up for that in some of his coverage. You look at some of his tape, he makes some coverage plays that only a handful of guys in the league can really make. I like the fact that they're bringing in a coverage guy to play that position now because the front seven is so solid, and Roquan Smith roaming sideline to sideline, that front seven can take care of itself. They can kind of let Clinton Dix go back there and pick plays off. I mean, let's face it, Amos didn't have that many interceptions. I think 4 in his career, and Clinton Dix has way more than that. So they're getting a guy that can be a ball hawk. Yeah, he had 2 great years and kind of fell off. Packers fans will tell you that he sucks and all this other stuff. So, but I really like the signing in Clinton Dix. It's a very team-friendly deal. 1 year, $3.5 million. If he doesn't pan out, they can move on to the next thing. I think this is a good move.
I actually had an interaction today on Twitter with a Packers fan who said this guy can play, and he was very complimentary about Clinton Dix and thought it was a great signing for the Chicago Bears. And so I had to, just to be polite, I had to tell him, well, you guys got an even better player, in my opinion, than Adrian Amos.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Amos got a great – I'm glad he got paid. I'm glad he got his deal. There's no hard feelings there. Sucks that he's going to Green Bay, but I'm never going to, chastise anybody for getting their money. That he deserves it, and it sucks that he has to wear, green and yellow, but it is what it is.
All right, John, I'm going to ask you a tough question. This isn't on the list here. I'm going to ask you, if you were a professional football player and you were with the Chicago Bears, and all of a sudden it's that free agency time, and the best offer comes from the Green Bay Packers, What are you going to do?
I go into George McCaskey's office and I say, match this. You have to match this. Don't make me do this, George. Don't make me do this, Ryan Pace. You just don't make me do it. I would unless it was, $100 million more than the highest offer. But I'm talking from a fan perspective. I've never been a professional athlete. It's hard to say that I would, because in my mind right now, I would never, ever do that.
Right.
But as a professional athlete, you're coming from a different standpoint. So it's hard to say. But me right now, no. That's 100% no.
I'll buy that response. Excellent. All right. Question number 2. Is there a Ryan Pace signing that displeased you or made you wonder, what the heck is he doing? You got 55 seconds.
I'm not displeased with anything, really. I thought either Callahan or Amos would re-sign, and that's still entirely possible with Callahan. I see the Tevin Coleman deal in San Francisco, which was about 2 years, $10 million, and I really thought the Bears could shell that out, but that also might mean that they really have their eye on a guy in the draft, maybe one of those guys we just talked about. I thought maybe they'd get a little more aggressive at the kicker position, go get Steven Gostkowski, but that could still happen. I like the cautious approach this year. Let the market come to you. You see what happened with Clinton Dix. Shelling out money on day one and being aggressive most likely means you're overpaying. There are still good players out there, and Ryan Pace isn't going to break the bank for the sake of just signing somebody. Buster Screen makes sense as far as depth and aggressiveness. Ted Larson will make a fine backup, I suppose. Mike Davis should be a nice upgrade on that third running back. Probably will be more effective than Mizell or Cunningham. But I already told you that I was pretty excited about Cordell Patterson. They made a splash last year with Robinson, Gabriel, Trey Burton. That doesn't need to happen every year. The Bears are a good team now. They don't need to be overly splashy.
I am with you there. On 100 Proof, we recorded last night, and I mentioned that I thought that the biggest thing that Brian Pace may have done was the extension of these contracts of Roy Robertson Harris, of Isaiah Irving, and now I'm forgetting the third player that
Coward.
And Rashard Coward, the offensive lineman, who's been a guest on our show. I shouldn't forget. But because I see so much promise in these guys. And, Roy Robertson Harris, as Shane pointed out on the show, he was praised by Chris Collinsworth in that very first game against the Green Bay Packers. And I think, with more playing time, this guy could develop into a player that's going to make us forget whoever it is that we're disappointed we didn't pick up or what have you. All right.
I completely agree.
All right, let's head over to question number 3. Which player still out there intrigues you the most? 55 seconds.
Does it sound too luxurious to say Steven Gostkowski? I mean, remember when the Colts had enough of Mike Vanderjagt's crap and they went out and signed a 34-year-old Adam Vinatieri?
Yes.
Well, now he's 46 and he's still kicking. I'm not saying Gostkowski is Vinatieri, but statistically they're pretty close. By the way, it just occurred to me that Vinatieri has been kicking for the Colts longer than he has the Patriots, and Gostkowski has been the kicker for New England for 12 years. I'm getting old. Some reports say that he's going to resign with New England, but why hasn't he done that yet if it was such a done deal? Is drafting one a sure thing? I don't think so. We saw that play out with Roberto Aguayo in Tampa Bay and Chicago. Is giving a long-term deal to an average kicker a good deal? No, we kind of saw that play out this year. I'm not going to, it's still burned into my eyes. I'm not going to bring that up. I'm not even going to say his name. He who shall not be named is gone. But a guy like Gostkowski, I can't even say his name right. 3 Super Bowls, always consistent, can probably kick another 5 to 6 years at least. Go get your guy. I'm tired of holding my breath on 35-yard field goals.
Yeah, I hear you on that. That makes perfect sense. I do like the strategy that Pace is taking in that he's trying to find a gem among all these free agents that are out there, and bring to camp 2 or 3, 4 guys and have them fight it out. But if they can work out a deal with a guy like Steven Gostkowski, and so we can, our blood pressure doesn't go up as high on Sundays, hey, I'm all for that.
Take a poll. How many people would pay him $5 million a year if you think that kick goes in last year in the playoffs?
I pay him even more.
All right.
I don't like crying on our podcast. All right, that's very embarrassing.
It is.
All right, so question number 4. I've put together one of my biggest concerns is I want the Bears to be contenders for the Super Bowl for years and years and years. I don't want this, 1-2 years of excellence and then all of a sudden it's back to 10 years of doldrums.
Oh, I know.
So, I've looked at the contract situation with players, and, the Bears can do themselves some good by extending some deals and in some cases, saying, all right, maybe it's time that we cut ties with these guys or this guy. So I put together a list of 4 guys: Danny Trevathan, Jordan Howard, Cody Whitehair. Those 3 guys are in the final year of their contract, 2019. And then Leonard Floyd has that 5th-year option the year later. So Ryan Pace could start to extend some of these contracts or say, this player X will not will finish this year's upcoming contract and we'll let him go and spend that cap money somewhere else. So I wanted your take on this. If you can prioritize these 4 players for us, and then tell us if they have long-term plans for the Bears. 55 seconds when you're ready.
Oh, I think Cody Whitehair needs to be addressed. He'll be 27 when his contract's up. Proven to be a Swiss Army knife on the line, can play center and just about anywhere else you put him. Kind of reminds me of Roberto Garza in that aspect. I'm not comparing them as players. Relax. But I think that he needs to be extended. Then there's Danny Trevathan. He's going to be just around 30 years old when his contract's up. That's going to be an interesting decision. He played really well last year and stayed healthy, but he has a history of being banged up. So I think this year will go a long way in deciding whether or not he's going to stick around. I would love to see him stick with this defense. Maybe he can get a team-friendly 2-year, 3-year extension with an out after 2 years. I could go for that. Leonard Floyd, go ahead and exercise that 5th-year option. Let's see if this kid can put it all together and he can become who we expected him to be. And, then there's Jordan Howard. Hell, if it's possible he gets traded now, I don't see how in the world they're going to extend him. The guy is making about $650,000 a year right now. Someone's going to pay him. I don't think it's going to be the Chicago Bears. 2019 could very possibly be the last year we see Jordan Howard in a Bears jersey.
You wouldn't mind seeing Howard packaged in a deal and sent out, sometime before the draft or maybe even on draft day?
No, and trust me, I love Jordan Howard. I love his style. I love how aggressive he is. But I don't think that he's in their long-term plans. Yeah. I mean, I think that where there's smoke, there's fire, and I'm sure that they would field some offers for Jordan Howard right now and see what they could do in the draft and see what they could get with a more dynamic skill set. So I can see it happening.
Yeah, I was listening to Matt Bowen, who former Chicago Bear, who is now a great analyst over at ESPN, and he was talking about how Matt Nagy wants all 5 of the skill players out there that are helping Trubisky succeed. He wants all 5 of them to have versatile skill sets so that they can run, block, and go out and run precise pass routes and so forth. And Bowen felt that perhaps Nagy believes that Howard has a deficiency in running routes and so forth and would prefer to have a good pass catching running back. If that's the case, then this could be Jordan Howard is not going to be long.
Well, don't be surprised if you see a lot of sets this year where Tariq Cohen and Cordero Patterson are in the backfield because we saw what he could do in New England out of the backfield, and if you give those guys a half a second of hesitation, they're gone. So I can see a lot of 2-back sets with those 2 guys in the backfield this year.
And speaking of Cordero, wasn't it great? There was an interview. He met with reporters. I think it was over a speakerphone interview, and he talked about how he wants to reach out to Devin Hester and get his thoughts on how break big plays. And this guy who, when he was with the Minnesota, I mean, he made some decisions that just weren't very smart. It sounds to me like this guy has matured and is ready to take a big leap in his career.
It takes a lot to be a first-round pick and then take a back seat where you're a return specialist or a special teamers. He adapted. Not a lot of guys have they have too big an ego to actually accept that role. He has. And he's turned it into why he's still in the league. Because if he was going to be dead set on being a number 1, he'd be out of this league. But he adapted. He found something he's really good at, and he's still in the league, and he's contributing, and he's going to contribute to the Bears.
Excellent. All right, now, question number 5 is usually what we do is our motivation speech. And I just almost feel like I'm torturing you because
we're fine.
While we're hanging on every word and we love to hear your perspective on things, you know, I also know that you're playing hurt. So take it easy with this one, all right?
We're good. Go ahead.
Lots of fans are bummed out that the Bears have not nabbed that big-time free agent. Maybe you feel the same way. If you do, well, motivate Ryan Pace to figure out a way to land that big name. If you don't, then let the fans know why they need to relax. John, it's all yours.
Barflies, Bears fans, chill out a little bit. Championships are not bought in March. They're drafted in April. I know we always want that shiny, expensive toy that we think is the missing link, but we have to center ourselves a little bit and focus on what the team looks like now. It's a solid group. A lot of it is homegrown. I want you guys to think back to the year 2000. I know some of you might not have been born or been around or even in this country, but I want you to think back in 2007. Hell, I was only 11 years old. But Dan Snyder bought the Redskins, and then he went out and he brought in a bunch of names. Of those names, Bruce Smith, Deion Sanders, Andre Reed, Mark Carrier, Bears fans should know that name, Jeff George. Then he brought in Irving Fryer the year before that. People thought this team was going to roll through everybody, but they had a top-heavy payroll. That team lost 6 of their last 8 games. They missed the playoffs and they went 8-8. And then Norv Turner was also canned the next year. Also leaving the next year, Deion Sanders, Carrier, Reed, Fryer, they were all gone the next year. I know this is an extreme example, but it shows you that you can't buy a top-to-bottom solid team. With a salary cap and free agency system, that's impossible because you have to overpay some and then you take away from other aspects. We always hear about teams like Miami, Washington, and Oakland winning free agency. What the hell do they have to show for it? Nothing. Relax. The Bears are in good hands. We're not trying to impress people with big names and dollar amounts. Wins are more impressive. And to keep a solid core of players together is what gets that done. Don't get enamored with one position. Lev Bell can't play deep coverage on defense. Landon Collins can't pick up blocks on a blitzing linebacker. Antonio Brown can't stuff the run on defense. Mark Ingram can't kick a 43-yard field goal, although I'd be willing to try him out at this point. The Bears are a good team. We don't need desperation anymore. We don't have to yearn for a savior to come through on a white horse and a $100 million contract. We're good. Just breathe. Enjoy watching everybody else scramble at this point. Well, with that being said, back on hiatus I go. I'll be back around draft time. I hope to God my voice is in better shape by then. Don't forget, this episode of Buffone 55 will be on your podcast stream Friday morning. Make sure you share it with all your friends. Give us a review on all the delivery systems: iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher. Aldo's still getting that MySpace page ready to go. You name it, all you have to do is search for Bears Barroom Radio Network, and we're going to pop up. Aldo, what do you got?
I just want to tell people that the Mike North Advantage, the Friday version, is now moving to Sundays at 8 a.m. Central, and we might have some more schedule changes coming up, so just follow us on Twitter for the latest. And I also want to remind people that Mike North's new ESPN 1000 AM radio show is on 6 p.m. Central, so make sure you tune into that. It is a good listen.
All right, Aldo, that'll do it for us. We'll see. I guess it'll be about a month before we're back on the air. I hope I can bring it a little harder than I did tonight. But
you did great.
Until next time, bear down, everybody.
Take care.